I'd like to ask the Minister to provide a breakdown of the initiatives being rolled out by the Department to reduce emissions and as a result of the carbon tax receipts. If you just make a statement. Thank you, Minister.
Minister.
The programme for government commits that carbon tax revenues will be used to ensure carbon tax increases are progressive by spending €3 billion on targeted social welfare and other initiatives to prevent fuel poverty and ensure just transition, to provide €5 billion to part fund a socially progressive national retrofitting scheme programme, and thirdly allocate €1.5 billion to encourage and incentivise farmers to farm in a greener and more sustainable way. Between 2020 and 2023, my department spent €482.1 million of carbon tax funds. €472 million of these funds have been invested in Ireland's world-leading retrofit schemes, delivering 108,000 home energy upgrades, increasing from 17,546 in 2020 to 47,953 in 2023, and an increase in free upgrades under the Warmer Home Scheme from 1,473 in 2020 to 5,898 in 2023, at an increased average cost of €25,000 per free upgrade. €8 million supported Ireland's contribution to the Green Climate Fund to support developing countries' response to climate change. €500,000 was spent on the National Just Transition Fund, supporting 56 locally led projects. And in 2020, carbon tax funds were used to fund electric vehicle grants and EV infrastructure. Responsibility for that has since been transferred to the Department of Transport. This year, an allocation of €388 million of carbon tax funds is in place and will be spent.
Of the €3 billion you collect, what you really did was head it off to COP and signed us up to targets that we could never meet. And we face fines of between 3 and 8 billion as a result. Now, you'll be long gone off into the sunset when that occurs. I think it's pretty dismal, the hardship you've caused people who have bought electric vehicles, because not only did they buy them in good faith that you would put the infrastructure in place, having given them a very small partial grant, but that infrastructure isn't in place. And now many of them face the position where they can't trade those cars because they've halved in value. The car dealers are not able to sell them, therefore they can't take them in. So we're left in a position where you write to Ursula von der Leyen to make up for your mistake. You wrote to her on the 7th of October, along with some other ministers within the EU, and you ask her to take advantage of the corporate fleet, those who have a car for work and who get benefit in kind. And you're asking her to look at that and to tap in as you put, however the potential currently remains untapped. So you want to now force the EU to correct your mistake, to bring in some further imposition where you lacked the capability of putting the infrastructure in place to deal with the electric car market. You put the cart before the horse, and now people are left footing the bill.
Thanks. Minister.
I believe we can meet our climate obligations, our climate targets, which we need to do to protect our people from the incredible damage that would be done if we don't stop runaway climate change. And I think the fact that last year our emissions dropped by 6.8% shows that it is possible. It's not just for the environmental reason, a lot of social benefits as we make this switch green, but also critically for our economy. I happened to be at the European Energy Council today and yesterday at the European Environment Council. We were discussing the Draghi report, which is the centre of the new European economic strategy. It's all about going green. I don't think there was a country there today who didn't think if we don't do this, we're going to fall behind. Our economies won't function. And I disagree with you fundamentally. Electric vehicles, I believe, have a real future, will be the centre of new cars, will all be electric because they're better cars and they're cheaper to run, particularly when we can run them on our own renewable power rather than having to import money and send money to the Middle East or to Russia or elsewhere. So this transition is coming. This transition is going to be good for our people. This government has made incredible strides in that direction, I believe, as we can see with the figures and numbers of houses being retrofitted. The number of electric vehicles on the road, it's taken a temporary reduction, but it will come back because they're better cars and we will have the infrastructure there to service them, including the renewable power.
Deputy Murphy.
Tariffs on Chinese cars at half the price. So, I mean, you really don't want people to drive them, do you? you did put the cart before the horse. I'm not denying that the transition will take place. But the reality is that you have left some people in a very financially disadvantaged position because of your inability to provide the infrastructure. We've allowed the Chinese to flood the market now with cars that are built at half the price, might I add, from coal-powered energy. So sometimes, you know, people see you going off, signing up to targets that mean little or nothing except billions of fines for this country. And that is what makes them suspicious of the green agenda. Everybody has bought into the green agenda, but it seems to be costing some people more. It seems to be costing our fishing fleet more. It seems to be costing our farmers more, all because you have signed up to targets that just weren't achievable. Not in the time frame for which you signed up to them. You have decimated sectors of rural Ireland without a second thought.
Minister, to conclude.
I fear that your words may be stoking suspicion and actually is not true reflection of what's actually happening. Firstly, we will likely meet our target by the end of next year in terms of number of electric vehicles on the road. I'd like to see it higher, I'd like to see it faster, but we are on track. And we are actually providing infrastructure. This summer, we've agreed major investment, which is actually happening now, being built out in our motorway stations, really high-speed fast charging, in our sports clubs, right across the country, where people will be able to go to the match, go to the kids' training and charge at the same time. We are putting €100 million into exactly that infrastructure. 80% of Irish houses, though, are charged at home, and that gives us a real advantage. Distances are not so long in Ireland. All these new cars can work within the ranges that we might need them to do on our island. And actually, we have one of the more advanced and better developed, and we were one of the first, because the Greens were in government 10 years ago. We started this transition then by building out the first national network of charging systems. So you could stoke suspicions by saying it's all terrible, we're the worst. We're not. Irish people, I agree with you on this, Irish people want to make this leap green. They do want to make this change.
Thanks, Minister.
And they are actually doing it in their homes, in how they manage transport, on our farms. It's happening despite the suspicions you refer to.
The reality is that 20 years ago, the Greens told everybody to buy diesel, that was the energy of the future. That was the science, you said. The science all of a sudden changed to buying electric. Now we are in a position where they did buy electric, but there's no infrastructure to support it, except the electric cars are now coming from China at half the cost, built with coal-fuelled energy. And you talk about suspicion. You have people under the illusion in this country that you're going to take the cleanest diesel engines from trucks with Euro 6 engines and put them on trains, freight trains now, that aren't even Euro 1.
Sorry, the time has elapsed for priority questions.
Well, that's the point. The Minister needs to answer that. I'm not stoking suspicion, I'm stating a fact.
Last word.
Tax codes 20 years or 15 years ago because we did want to support lower emissions vehicles. Because 35 years ago we read and understand the science of climate change and the need for action.
Thanks.
Can I say the most important thing I'd like to see you supporting, what I would like to see you supporting, and I hope we can get, if I could finish the point, what I would love to see you supporting as part of this new investment to a green economy is the investment in Rosslare Harbour. As the centre of a new, cleaner way of doing things, including the reintroduction of rail freight and the reintroduction of the rail line from Wexford to Waterford to revitalise Wexford as well as Waterford. That's the future. It's going green.
Thanks, Minister.